Waifus, love them, hate them, we degenerate weeps, we have all of the waifus we want, but we choose to stick with one, or you are one of those seasonal hosts that ditches this lady for another seasonal waifu that comes and goes and comes and goes as it pushes. As such, even card games do have the waifus the card game player do indeed use to have fun with other card gamers and discuss the fine taste of wine their waifu is. And like every degenerate, I am one of them, possessing my own all-time favorite waifu from a card game anime. This lovely card game anime is called Cardfight Vanguard, and to which I do indeed play with passionate love, even though the German community is even more dead than dead itself. But anyways, as such, I will bring you the premium deck profile to my favorite waifu of all time, which is Ahsha. So without further ado, let's get into the lovely Ahsha profile. To start off with our Grade 0 lineup, of course, which is the trigger lineup, I indeed have to say I play this deck very aggressively. Given I do not play the Grade 2 Antero in it, I will explain further why. But I want the aggression in it, so I play 8 triggers. This is a good ratio for me personally. I of course play the Happy Lucky with Polintia to just have a little bit of extra spice with our Happy Lucky giving us our Soul Charge and as well a card to draw, and our Polintia being a Stride Fodder. Other than that, every card in this deck except the Grade 3s are just of course Stride Fodder and or Guard Fodder. Coming up next is our Perfect Guard Blossom Rain, which is just your essential V-Series Perfect Guard draw. It helps us to replace the Grade 1 Perfect Guard, just have more room for other cards we more essentially need at the same level, or perhaps even more. All in all, she is just very useful, of course, because this deck also needs to draw a lot to get the combo pieces we want. As such, she's a neat option for us. So last but not least in our Grade 0 lineup, we have Florencia. Florencia is just your typical heal guard with the special effects she comes with, which includes being one of our powerhouses, reducing 2 crits from your opponent's Vanguard or any other unit, and of course she's a great free ride target should you never see an Ahsha in your hand ever in that one gameplay. Other than that, she's a pretty neat unit. You can stack her up to 4. I even encourage you to play her at 4, and probably you never replace her because she's indeed needed. Though exactly last in the Grade 0 lineup, we have our Ozu, a typical starter, gives us our quick shield ticket and our extra draw in the beginning of her turn. For our first turn, as such, she has nothing special on her own. Now hold on, I know what you perhaps may say. How can you play her? Why do you play her? Yes, of course, legit questions, but hear me out. Irradiate not only can generate us a token by just a rest and a counterblast, and she generates 2, she also gives resist to the units in front of her column. As such, we can protect our tokens, so she's indeed a very good choice. And if you don't need her, you just can guard with her. And of course, how can it be other than that? We have our Food Basket. She generates us tokens like anything in this deck has to, either by cost or ideally free. But the best thing, she generates 2 tokens for just a Soul Blast and retiring herself. She gives us place for our tokens to call upon with just the cost of Soul Blast. Going on, we play 3 copies of our Sweet Berry. Sweet Berry is our token generator, helping us further progress our plays, and even in our first strike, going over the hassle of just generating tokens after probably the opponent has removed some of them anyway. So she is a very neat play to do. 3 copies are at best. And for the last part of our Grade 1 lineup, we have our Padmini in 2 iterations, which are the V-Series and the G-Series Padmini. Why, I can explain precisely. Reason is because often you don't want just to scavenge your top 5 cards, you need to want to search for Ahsha specifically. As with the V-Series, you often can get either no Ahsha or sometimes go into the heal trigger, which is helpful and sometimes not. So directly searching for Ahsha in times of need of her is pretty fantastic with Padmini in the G-Series, and she's also a Stride Fodder you can use as well. Gans Guide is a very helpful card in such sense that you generate tokens with her a bit more usefully than with other cards, because she places on the number of tokens you already possess to open rear guard. The problem with her is if you have her more than 2 times, just to be generous, you often break with her because your field generates tokens for free, yes, but sometimes just the 1, sometimes you just even cancel, so she becomes a dead card in your hand and useless as well. So I would rather play her at 1, see her less, or if I see her just at the right time, and such, she can help me out with the best of the abilities. For the cost of our Simp Boy, we play 2 extra cards, which are Nepenthes and Anelma. Nepenthes for the sole cause that she indeed can draw us cards which we indeed need. It doesn't matter in which Ahsha token version, we need the cards we want to see. As such, you can retire Plan token we generate very easily in this deck. As such, she not only can do that, but give our Vanguard a crit. As I mentioned, Anemma is our second card replacing Antero, and such is just our token generator and to draw early turn. Of course, I am aware of the offensive and defensive play with the grade 2 Antero. You sacrifice draw power for actual power, in which case I am a bit unaware of why you should do that. You can give a balanced ratio perhaps, but Antero on its own is probably a bit more to cost than he is worth, depending on if your opponent hasn't removed the tokens beforehand as well, and you just have to rebuild the entire board you did. So Antero often also falls flat, so the argument can be made for both sides to be either play both or just one of them. But I chose the draw variant as my deck is indeed very aggressive and wants to see the components for the combo in very early turns. Next up I played 2 copies of Sealer. Here cost comes with a counterblast to generate 2 tokens. Next of course we have Fall Wine. Fall Wine is a good card because she draws us for free technically, as you have to indeed call over a token to activate it. You can indeed have that cost to just draw for extra pieces and combo. Of course, lastly, the playset of 4 of Sylvia. Sylvia is a free token generator, and I unfortunately have to say that we don't have much of those free generators. But she is one of them with a great ability that either on Vanguard or Vanguard she just comes out with a plan token we can use, and she indeed is a wonderful card. You have to play it 4 to always see in your hand. Doesn't matter for a ride, it doesn't matter for that skill. You can also use it as art fodder, but to have it 4 times is very practical. Which lastly I have also to say, not only do I not have Antero yet, but also lack the promo grade 1, which indeed is very useful for this deck, but it doesn't matter where I look, she is sold out. I just can't find her, sadly, but I would indeed play her at 4. Or him, but it's that one promo card that you look up the top cards of your deck for an Ahsha, and if not, you don't find an Ahsha, you can just generate a token. Pretty much that explains why I will play now the ratio I do with the grade 3. And of course, the main attraction of this deck, the main waifu we all have and love, Ahsha. The V-Series Ahsha is split up into 4 ratios. We have for the starter deck Ahsha and the next stage booster set Ahsha. Because you want a backup grade 3 that is not the heal trigger in your deck, and your main target to ride is of course Dream Spinning Ahsha. Because even though both have in some ways the same skill, generating our Ahsha fairy tokens, main Ahsha needs 3 sacrifices, while Dream Spinning needs only 2. She can generate also 2 tokens for us, which often comes in handy if you have the counterblast, which means you can generate quick tokens for the Sandrine play in your main phase, after you already put out the flower fairy token from Ada's skill, because her generating skill also works on the Regard Circle. This Ahsha has the neat skill that she gets the critical and power for the number of Ahsha units you have on the field with their name in its text. As such, the fairy token also does count as Ahsha, giving us the sole choice of only using one and single thing as our force marker, which will be the critical. I have never in my life, since playing this deck, the force marker 1. Because I want the aggression, I want to reduce the cards in the hand of my opponent, and just want to see his face crumble and stumble and fall into anger when he has to guard with 2 cards for a unit with 14k attack, because he has to use 2 units just to not let it pass. It's the best thing. Even if you lose, it's just the best feeling ever. And besides that, you want to have as much Ahsha as you can to sim for. Like, I swear to God, if she would be an e-girl, I would be in depth to my bank for my entire life in the first month. I swear to God. With concluding our main deck, we of course go into our G-Zone, which I have to admit consists of 1 card I said not to use because you are the only simp allowed in your waifu deck, but I use it because we need to use it, which is the G-Guard Antero. Antero has a big number, and this deck needs those big numbers, because if you at least don't play the grade 2 Antero for the defensive play, play the G-Guard Antero just to have the extra power you can guard with, and it isn't just such a heavy cost you have to pay. It's easily done and finished, and it gives you a bit of fair play in your opponent's battle phase. Next, of course, you play free Bravatina. It's very easy to explain. She is just a fantastic card. Of course, she is not as good in comparison as to her other sisters and brothers that came in the same set with her, as she loses the perfect guards option of the skill replacement for a counter charge. Yes, of course, this deck needed that counter charge, but let's be honest, Bushido, it would have not killed you to replace the power gain part of the effect with the perfect guard and keep the counter charge. It's been a neat thing for us Neonectar players to have in our extra deck as an indeed neat option. But no, and let us actually start with the G units that we introduce in our main phase. As such, we have first and foremost Verano. Verano, because I have space. His skill is complicated, which just is lovely at all. It's just lovely, very much so. And summed up, basically, you recycle, you summon, and you lose track of what you actually do with her skill. And she has a very pretty art on her card, which in SP looks fantastic. So no other excuses for her. Which then actually brings us to the useful G units we play, which one of them is Sandrine. I had mentioned beforehand, hopefully, that we include 2 stride in our main phase, and Sandrine is that card that allows us to do so. With the cost of 2 tokens and a counter blast, we can indeed stride her in our main phase to gain advantages with this method of striding. Additionally, she gains a crit and 10k power to her own boost. With such and the fairy tokens copying that boost in crit and power, she is indeed the best first stride we can do besides Ladislava. But setting her up for the first stride is indeed pretty hard, because your opponent will most likely try to get rid of your tokens as fast as possible. So Sandrine will often be your first stride, if not your second stride as well, to advance further into the game or just straight out finish your opponent. And speaking of Ladislava, we play 4 copies of her. Because I have the space, don't want to fill it with unnecessary shit, as I see many just pump the extra deck full with G cards. But Ladislava is a solid option just for your skill alone. As summed up, she can search units, like literally any unit you want, as long as you have the targeted grade on the field to gain access to the cards in your deck, and she can restand for multi-attacks cards of the same name on the field. Such your flower fairy tokens that copy the name of Ahsha, so you can restand them and attack. As aforementioned, our ideal play would be to indeed first stride here with the right preparations. As hard as it is to do, it is just our either third or second stride option. But last but not least, actually least, we have Inglorious Bloom Ahsha. Why? I had the space. She is my cover card. She is thick waifu without need of fan art to dampen up her assets in every possible way, because she is a natural thick and such the best waifu to ever exist, with her personality of course. But now in all seriousness, she has no use except being my cover card for the extra deck. She has a beautiful artwork. Wanted the SP version, but it was very expensive, so I just went for triple rare. And other than that, she is pretty useless. You can replace her with anything else in the G zone you want. I just wanted her because she looks pretty, and this is an Ahsha deck, so it just fits the motif. Other than that, I hope that our Caution Lady gets a bit of love in the future and gain a bit of support, so we can indeed not like make here any tier 2 or tier 1 deck, but be a bit more consistent, be a bit more powerful in the turns, so she can indeed be played in local events or something and have fun with your friends and stuff. As she is now, she is the fun option, but other than that, I have no real records to show or tell you, besides that she indeed does well against my Ward deck and my Chaos Breaker, and does good against Current Jet if you have the right combo pieces. Other than that, remember, this is just a fun thing to do. Of course, a premium format deck, but nothing for any major events or anything, just to have fun with your friends. And if you want to have a waifu deck, you can play for fun. There are definitely, as mentioned, options for cards you can do better. Do them, play it in your style. Do it as you wish. I just love to play a bit more aggressive with this deck, whilst having the cards in my hands to not worry about guarding or anything else. So, and if you enjoyed this at all, I hope you give me a thumbs up, give me a subscription to see my other videos. Hopefully we see us through the next deck profile I do, which will definitely be the Chrono Jet ZTB premium deck profile, hopefully. And I hope you test this deck out for yourself and see that Ahsha is indeed the best waifu of all time. So adios babies, let's go!